Resident Evil 6.
Hello there, Kangaroos, and welcome to part 2 of my Resident Evil 6 review. I'm your host Roo, and I think we already wasted enough time with introductions, so let's continue this spectacle. Where did we leave off? Right, Chris is still dealing with his Edonia flashback, and Helena and Leon are enjoying their flight to China. Which leaves us with Jake and Sherry. What happened to them after running into Ada Wong in Edonia? We check back in with them on the day of the Langxiang terror attack. They are in a really freaky looking research lab, and after being experimented on for 6 months, Jake and Sherry manage to escape their captives. They reunite and have a little heart-to-heart.
Nice.
No, not that kind of heart-to-heart. We now have to fight our way through a nice looking Chinese mansion, and our heroes manage to contact Sherry's boss to arrange their rescue. After fighting mutated Chavos and dodging a tank, our young heroes make their escape on a motorcycle. Simultaneously, Helena and Leon are still on their way to China. Just look at all those passengers. Look how safe and sound they are. I'm sure nothing bad is going to happen to them. The flight gets turbulent as the pilot is suddenly changed into this thing. These Lepocita things are actually the source of the Tall Oaks outbreak, so let's thank that thing appropriately by kicking it out of the plane. See, I told you the passengers would be fine. With the plane's pilot gone, it's up to Leon to bring that bird down. I'm sure they will be fine, so let's finally check back in with Chris. He finally regained his memory and decides to go on the hunt for Ada Wong. His search is hindered as a familiar enemy shows up. A giant snake. A giant invisible snake. That's a nice callback to the very first game. I like it. The snakey kills almost all of Chris's men, and after a fierce battle, he manages to finally take it down. We don't have much time to celebrate, as Ada suddenly shows up to infect the team's last remaining soldier, Mako, turning him into a mosquito monster. Yikes. Chris is forced to kill Mako and is of course very sad about it. The hunt for Ada Wong continues, and we switch over to Jake and Sherry. We end up at a crash site and find out that Helena and Leon are just fine. Oh, look at that sweet reunion. It's spoiled a bit, as it turns out that Sherry is working for Simmons. It's ultimately over as Ustanak shows up again. And we have to deal with him. Again. The group is separated during this fight, and they decide to regroup later. Sherry and Jake go on a romantic boat ride, which is rudely interrupted by another mainstay of the series, a chainsaw-wielding psychopath. I was wondering when he would show up. They are saved by a mysterious woman in red and move on to the rendezvous point. In the meantime, we see how Leon spots Ada and manages to confront her. Okay, that was freaking awesome. And look at that! Chris Redfield and Leon Kennedy, finally coming face to face. My fanfiction is finally coming true.
We both want the same thing here. Alright.
Ada does manage to escape though, and Leon and Chris have a little bromance. Chris and Pierce are pursuing her, and a pretty cool chase ensues. They follow Ada to a carrier, but Team Chris crashes the Humvee, knocking them out momentarily. Now Sherry and Jake rejoin with Helena and Leon, who are held at gunpoint by Simmons. Simmons pretty much confirms him being the bad guy, and Jake and Sherry try to escape, just to be captured by Chavo forces. Again. Simmons, on the other hand, is shot by one of the Chavos and goes through a little makeover.
Holy shit, look at this fucking thing!
We have a pretty darn cool boss fight on a train and deal with Simmons, wrecking the train in the progress. I tell you, there's a lot of crashing going on in this game. We now reach the point of the game where it gets a little bit confusing. Chris and Pierce badass their way through the carrier in the meantime and figured out that Ada Wong is the head of Neo Umbrella, the organization responsible for the C-Virus outbreak. They even confront her and she monologues away, telling us that she is about to launch a global missile strike, spreading the C-virus all around the world. She is shot by one of Simmons' men and takes a long nap. Chris and Pierce try to stop the virus missile launch, but one rocket fires anyway, resulting in the virus being spread in town and all hell breaking loose. Chris breaks the news of Ada's death to Leon, and he returns the favor by telling him that Jake is Orbit Wesker's son, and that Chris has to save Sherry and Jake from an underwater Neo Umbrella facility. Next, Team Leon makes their way through the zombie-infested town, and after a bumpy helicopter ride, they arrive at the so-called Quad Tower to team up with the BSAA. But Simmons suddenly shows back up again. And he's not the only one back. Ada is alive too. But how is that possible? Okay, let's not act dumb. It's pretty obvious that there are two Ada Wongs. The one we know, wearing all red, and the bitch in charge of Neo Umbrella, wearing blue. But how can there be two Adas? To make sense of this, we have to take a look at Ada's campaign. We flash back to Ada one day before the Tall Oaks incident as she's infiltrating a Neo Umbrella submarine. Alright, this is my favorite campaign now. Don't get me wrong, I very much enjoy Ada's assets. But come on, Capcom, did the camera really have to be directly behind her while she's crawling?
Nice.
And these chavos spraying her with sticky white liquid. That's a bit overkill. Anyhow, our favorite spy makes her way through the submarine, stumbling upon a message left by Simmons, briefing her to assist Sherry and Jake in escaping Adonia. But that was 6 months ago, and Ada does not remember any of it. A little oopsie leads to the sub being flooded, and Ada has to escape. Too bad she didn't bring any flex tape. That would have taken care of the problem.
It even works underwater.
She of course escapes and travels to Tall Oaks, stumbling right into the virus outbreak. We do some fun puzzles, including hang corpses and electric chairs, to reach Simmons' lab. We even help Leon and Helena with the Deborah situation. Ada also finds the weird tape of her birth, and we learn that the woman in the tape is her doppelganger. For convenience sake, let's call this Ada Wang. But where did Wang come from? What is her goal? Let me tell you. Now this is going to be a little bit confusing, since the game itself does not offer much information, and you have to either collect all the documents in the game or consult the internet to make sense of this. It all started with the destruction of Raccoon City. Back then, Ada was working as an agent for Simmons, but decided to leave his employ after surviving Raccoon City and Simmons starting to obsess over bioweapons. He saw the potential of these BOWs for his organization and started to build secret labs all around the world. But that wasn't the only reason for Ada leaving. Simmons was also in love with her, but the feeling wasn't mutual. To handle Ada's rejection, Simmons started the development of the C-virus. He got help from a brilliant scientist called Carla Radames and used her and the C-virus to create the perfect Ada clone. A total normal thing, you know. Carla went a little kooky in the process, thought she was the real Ada, and created Neo Umbrella to destroy the world and to get revenge on Simmons. She even used Jake's blood to create a more powerful version of the C-virus to really stick it to Simmons. See, it's not that complicated. Ada figured this all out as she is traveling to China herself, trying to find Wang. It turns out that Wang wasn't really killed earlier, and after some crazy talk, things start to get juicy. Ada gets rid of her doppelganger, and we see that she not only helped out Sherry and Jake, but also assisted Leon and Helena. She later joins Team Leon in their fight against Simmons, who now transformed into a mutant dinosaur. Now that's awesome! While all of this is going on, Chris was able to free Jake and Sherry, and he even told Jake that it was him who killed his father. The little edgelord reacts as expected. The group gets separated again, and now it's time for an extravaganza of boss fights. While Chris and Pierce try to destroy Wang's ultimate weapon, Chaos, Sherry and Jake have to reunite with their old friend, Ustanak. Alright, to make this not too confusing, let's start with Chris. We bravely fight Chaos, but Pierce is injured in the battle. He uses a dose of the enhanced C-virus to power up, and with the power of friendship, we manage to defeat Chaos. Our BSAA friends make their escape, but Pierce decides to stay behind as he is afraid of the virus turning him into a monster. In the meantime, Jake goes mano a mano against Ustanuk and finally deals with him. He and Sherry make their high-speed escape, just for Ustanuk to show back up again. Okay, Capcom, you are taking this whole indestructible monster thing way too far. Using the power of friendship, okay, it's actually just a gun, we really take out Ustanuk and everything is lovely once again. This now leaves us with Helena, Ada and Leon versus Simmons. They defeat his dinosaur form, and while Ada is cleaning out the tower's rooftop, Helena and Leon are trying to meet up with her. But surprise surprise, Simmons shows back up to spoil their plans. Ada is knocked out during the fight, but Leon saves her with the power of love. We deal with Simmons again, and Ada says goodbye to Leon. But this isn't over yet. You guessed it, Simmons turns back up again. This time as a giant fly. He is easily taken care of though with a rocket launcher. Now that's how you deal with those guys. Very long story short, Chris is saved by the BSAA and decides to honor Pierce's memory by continuing his fight against bioterrorism. Leon and Helena's names are cleared and both continue to work for the Secret Service. Ada gets some payback by destroying Wang's secret lab, Jake's blood was used to create a vaccine for the C-virus, and Wesker Jr. himself decided to do his part by fighting mutants in the Middle East. Happy ends for everybody! Yay! And that was Resident Evil 6. I know, it's a lot to digest. Imagine how difficult it was for me to put this into a somewhat comprehensive narrative. It's not that bad if you play the game for yourself, since it doesn't jump all over the place. In return, you do have to piece the stories together yourself. Even in this behemoth of a review, I had to leave out a lot of things. These awesome collectible action figures, for example. Or the really awesome voice cast. I myself had a lot of fun playing this game, and I'm sure you will have too. Chris's own fight with his PTSD and trauma, Jake's struggle with all but Wesker being his father, and Leon slowly coming to accept his feelings for Ada are the reasons I really love this game. Every character goes through its own development and changes. In the end, they are different people to the ones you see at the start of their campaign. I do think that the different campaigns are a great way to tell the story from different perspectives, but it did get a little bit drawn out and tiring towards the end. Now with this game dealt with, we can now move on to the next one. Resident Evil Revelations 2. Oh look, it's Barry! Hide your chill sandwiches! Until then, thank you so much for watching. This is Roo signing off. Goodbye!